Good morning, Minnesota. It is February 10th, 2023. President Joe Biden is still destroying our country, as well as the Democratic Party. And Governor Gestapo Waltz is still our governor in the wonderful state of Minnesota. So, a couple of things we're going to touch on as we just became the most radical state in the United States for abortion laws. Whether you agree with it or you don't, we all have our feelings. That's definitely our right as well as everyone else's out there. But apparently, you in Minnesota now you can abort a child up to 9 months old. That is not abortion. That is murder, and that is my opinion. And right now, our wonderful state of Minnesota is being ran by a bunch of transvestites, gangsters, and mentally unstable people that need their heads examined, which we commonly call the Democratic Party. So, a couple of things. I've been following a few bills here in Minnesota, and I want to touch on a few of them. We're going to start, we're going to get right to it here. House File 485 was in committee. I think it's going to get out of committee today and onto the House and Senate floor at some point. It's regarding revocation of probation for probation violations here in the state of Minnesota. They're trying to put through a bill and obviously get it signed into law where unless you're a threat to public safety, you cannot be violated on probation. What does this all mean? Well, it means quite a few things. It means people are not going to care about violating probation. They're going to use their drugs. They're going to go out and continue to commit crimes, and they are not going to have to worry about getting violated because with our Democratic Party here in Minnesota, which I call the Demon Rats, it will be hard for a judge to even sign an order for a probation violation. So, if you have a probation violation, if this law is signed into effect, you don't have to worry about anything, so go ahead and commit some more crimes. Absolutely unheard of the shit going on in Minnesota right now, folks. If you live in Minnesota and you don't hear about any of this stuff about full-term abortions, and we'll touch on a few other things. But right now, our gun rights are under attack here in Minnesota too. But if you live in Minnesota and this is all new to you, you need to turn on television, or you need to get the hell out of Minnesota before it's too late. Because turn on the news, because a lot of these bills and laws are getting signed. And right now, there's so many things right now that's going on in Minnesota, and I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just trying to start simple here. Again, that first file that I had mentioned to you, House File 485, that's wonderful for everyone. Next one is House File 854. They're attacking the bail bond industry here in Minnesota as well. If you live in Minnesota, it's no secret that crime has gone up. Jails are doing the catch and release program and cutting people back loose to the streets so they can commit more crimes. And you, me, and everybody out there, good working, hard working people, we're tired of it. House File 854 pertains to, and it reads, bail uses for certain offenses limited, which means they're trying to limit bail bond amounts for. It sounds like mostly misdemeanors and a lot of listed gross misdemeanors, which bail bondsmen such as myself and other bond companies around the state, we're okay with that. Misdemeanors, I don't think people should be sitting in jail if they can't afford a bail bond on a misdemeanor. However, gross misdemeanor and felonies, not only should there be bail imposed, but it should be the maximum bail. And by using a bail bondsman such as us and other bondsmen around the state of Minnesota, it creates accountability. So guess what? If mom co-signs for you, girlfriend or dad or cousin or friend, you're going to probably go to court because they stand to lose the money, we stand to lose the money, and you stand to lose the money. And then they send bounty hunters out after you, which I'd like to also add. Bounty hunters are a free warrant service to Minnesota residents. It doesn't cost the taxpayer one dime. I'm also a bounty hunter. I've been for almost 20 years. We go pick up our people. We don't rely on the police to pick them up. And that's at no expense to any of you guys out there. So that needs to be considered too. We're already saving taxpayers money by cleaning up our own mess per se. So that's one bill. The Minnesota Freedom Fund has announced that they are not leaving the state of Minnesota until there's no cash bail or bail in the state of Minnesota. A year or two ago, we were working with Senator Mark Curran on Senate File 415. I know I've mentioned it on a few videos before, and that pertains to regulating the Minnesota Freedom Fund. They did not like that because they are a nonprofit, and they get all kinds of money that goes to their, should I say, I'm not even going to call it a business, to the organization, and none of it's accounted for, none of it's regulated. Nobody knows how much there is, how much there isn't, but we've been told it's up to the amount of almost $30 million. And this is mainstream actors in Hollywood that are donating money, writing it off on their taxes, and not caring where the money's going. If you look up the Minnesota Freedom Fund, everybody watching this, I encourage you to Google Minnesota Freedom Fund and look at what's been going on around the state of Minnesota, because they've been bonding, very violent people and putting very violent people back on the street. Why is this an issue? Well, when they post cash bail directly to the jail, when that person appears for court, a check is issued to the defendant, not back to the Freedom Fund, but back to the defendant. So, in essence, if you're a scumbag and committing crimes and you keep going back to jail and you have the assistance of the Freedom Fund, well, they're cutting you a check and you're expected on the honor system to return it to the Freedom Fund. That's other statistics that we would love to know, and a lot of Minnesotans and lawmakers would like to know, but there's no current statutes or bills underway to regulate that where we would know that. So I would be curious on how many criminals that go to court, the ones that should be in jail, when they get issued a check to supposedly bring it back to the Freedom Fund, if they actually have. If they haven't, think about this, folks. That means you are now getting paid to go to jail. The Freedom Fund has made their stance very firm that they're not going anywhere. What I can tell you is they've been in a few states. I'm pretty sure New York chased them out of New York because they tried regulating them and they didn't like that. They didn't like regulation, which I wouldn't either. Frankly, I think they're a bunch of scumbags, and I think they make Minnesota unsafe. They get people out of jail with no accountability, and it's complete BS. The Freedom Fund was designed originally to get protesters out of Hennepin County Jail during the Floyd protest, and it wound up staying and now getting all the criminals out of jail and having their bail paid for. Again, they're unregulated. They're listed as a nonprofit, and that's very troubling. Anyone watching this, again, I encourage you to look at the Minnesota Freedom Fund and just look at some of the people they have bonded. They are making the streets unsafe. And now that we're on the subject, we can also point out the fact that there are some gutless and spineless judges, as well as county attorneys in Minnesota and in bigger counties such as Ramsey, Hennepin, Dakota. There's all kinds of them out there that just want to do the catch and release. Oh, we're just going to release you on conditions, and we'll see you back here in 2 months. And it's a revolving door, folks. It's no secret, if anyone's been watching the news, jails are getting packed because of the revolving door effect. And I know just recently Ramsey County was told they had to reduce their population, as well as a few other counties around the state of Minnesota. That is because there's no accountability, and nobody cares about going to jail anymore because there's no skin in the game per se. Again, if you're out on a bail for $10,000 and mommy or daddy or your cousins or friends signed you out and were a co-signer on your bond, well, guess what? There's skin in the game, and you're probably going to go to court. And we'd love to know the numbers of how much crime has been committed with people that have just been released with no bail required, with new crimes after they're out of jail, and compared to people on bail. And I can almost promise you that people on bail are not committing new crimes when they're outside of jail. There might be a few that get loose, but the majority of them, they are not going to be that way. Off topic here, any of you gun owners out there in the state of Minnesota, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, as well as Minnesota Gun Rights, they are fighting for your gun rights as well. I suggest checking out those websites as well and their Facebook pages, and if you're not a member, sign up immediately. Democrats are coming after your guns. Red flag orders, those are set to be voted on and passed and signed by wonderful Governor Walz. If they
Is huge issues going on around Minnesota. and we need to take care of this stuff. So